sexy you. Welcome back to Practice Intimacy. This is the place to be to learn all about relationships, sexuality, and how to have the best love life that you possibly can. I'm Jamie Lynn, and today I'm going to be continuing to pull apart this idea of nuance in sex. And if you want kind of an overview and introduction, then you can check out this video and get more of a sense of what I mean whenever I say the nuances of sex. But I'll give you a little bit of a sense right now. And then today is mostly going to focus on what can you do to begin building this muscle, to build, really it's an ability to be more connected to what's going on inside of you and going on inside of your partner so that you can create sexual experiences that have a broader range. So that includes more variety in the ways that you interact during sex. That also includes being able to pick up on the subtleties that you might experience during a sexual encounter with another person. And when you begin to build this nuanced ability to connect with yourself and partners with lots of range and variety, you will find that your sex life improves. You'll have more novelty as you explore sexuality with people that you've been in relationships with for a long time even. And also you'll be able to pick up on your partner's cues more, which can be a really important part of any sexual encounter, even though it's so important to also be able to communicate vocally. Like if you can pick up on the subtle body changes or the subtle energy changes that are happening in another, then you can have a more flowing experience overall. So that's just a little bit of a sense of what is nuance in sexuality. And I want to give you some practices to start kind of building the ability to be more nuanced. One is really some thought work. It is a shift in the way you're thinking about sex that would translate to having a different physical experience of sex. And then one will be purely physical. And then the last one has more to do with being able to shift your energy. And I know some people hear the word energy and they think it's very woo. It sounds woo, but there really is not a better word for it. Literally every single thing that we experience in the natural world is energy and information. That's it. So energy is the best word I have for this, but if it's woo-woo for you, I am sorry. Fill in the blank with something that fits for you. So this first one, the mind work that you could begin now that would help you build more nuance, is shifting from an orgasm-focused way of being sexual with others to a pleasure-focused intention around sex. This is with yourself too. This isn't just with others. Sex in general, solo sex, sex with other people. If you can learn to shift your attention to where instead of doing things like chasing an orgasm, you are beginning to just follow the edge of pleasure, regardless of whether you have an orgasm or not, regardless of whether the other person has an orgasm or not, then you will find that you will have more pleasure, obviously, and then also more nuance. And I say obviously, but maybe it's not obvious to everyone. Okay, so let me break that down a little bit. An orgasm lasts maybe 10 seconds at the most. Whereas having any kind of sexual encounter could last, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, sometimes longer than that. And so if you're playing with pleasure, you can have this long, luxurious experience with yourself, with another person, where you're just riding the edge of what feels good, rather than an experience where you're rushing to the finish line and you get the release and all of that. And sure, orgasms feel great, but that's a few seconds of pleasure versus this whole range of pleasure that you could have. If you move into a mental space where you really commit to prioritizing pleasure over orgasm, then you will have more pleasure. And then the way this works with nuance is, often whenever you're rushing to orgasm, you're doing whatever movement you know is going to get you there. That is not very nuanced sex. That is repetitive, dare I say boring sex. Versus riding the edge of pleasure and doing things that are different, doing movements, touch, all of these things that would be changed simply because you're not focused on getting to the finish line. So that's the first one. shifting your intentions around why am I having sex? What's the point? From having an orgasm to focusing on pleasure, just staying in pleasure for both you and your partner. The next thing that you can do to begin building some subtlety, and this is more of a body practice, is play with different types of touch. And you can do this solo, you can do it by yourself, but I would suggest if you can do it with a partner, that's a great idea too. So if I'm doing it by myself, then I might just like notice the difference between really soft fingertip touch versus what it's like to do the same touch with fingernails versus what it's like to have still pressure, just like holding pressure, versus, I don't know, like catwalking up my arm, or I'm not going to do this on camera, but a mouth or a tongue on my arm. What is that like? This is why I say do it with a partner. It'd be weird to tongue your own arm, but still, it could be fun. There's nothing wrong with that. Sounds interesting. Be a good way to practice. I guarantee I have definitely done that sometime in the past where I practiced like kissing or going down on someone, but using my own body. And that's not a bad way to practice. So if you are somebody who's solo right now and you just want to try it and have a good time, have at it. I give it my personal stamp of approval, but that's besides the point. Basically what you're doing when you're doing this kind of practice, just trying different types of touch to see, what do I like? What do I not like? What feels really good? What doesn't feel so good? As you're doing that kind of a practice, you are creating a sense of nuance in your touch. And why I say it could be nice to do with a partner is because if you have, say, their arm or their leg and you're doing these different touches, then you might also pay attention to what feedback you get from them, verbally, non-verbally, energetically. Do they prefer stillness? Do they like to be touched all over? Do they like circles and they hate stroking? Do they like deep pressure, or do they like really light pressure? Do they like things that are a little bit more fast? Like, would they want to be warmed up, or do they like slow and really soft touch? And just kind of playing with what is possible in touch. How can I create variations? How can I bring some surprise into the way I'm touching either myself or my partner? The last one that I'm suggesting that you begin practicing now is energetic nuance. There are some people who are very lucky. This comes to them naturally. I'm thinking about like the kink community. I would say people who enjoy any kind of role play, whether that's dominant sub or pet play or age play, or even just like we're gonna adopt a character. I'll be the nurse, you be the patient, whatever the case may be. People who are able to do that, they're playing with energy. So some dom who's going throughout her day and is not in her femdom headspace, her energy is going to be different as she's interacting with her friends, her coworkers, all of that, versus whenever she steps into being a dom and is suddenly with a partner, total shift in energy, right? And maybe you're not at all associated with the kink community, so that might not land for you. So let me just show you what I mean. My suggestion is you try this too, and just play with the different, almost like characteristics or ways of being, flavors of your own sexual interests that you like. So some examples of energy shifts that would happen include the difference between like really playful sex where there's some laughter and you're just enjoying each other and having a little bit of fun, really. I'm thinking in particular of a really good friend of mine who was once sharing a story of how her and her partner were playing different games, like board games, and they just started to make it sexy. And there's laughter involved and there's playfulness, and there's almost like a jumping off point into a more hot space, but it started in a playful space. That's an energy shift. Other kinds of energy shifts might look like, I'm thinking in terms of a relationship, a couple who maybe lives together and has been together for a while. You developed a close friendship with this person. If you are with somebody for that long, eventually you develop what is familial and friendly, and it can be hard to shift into a more sexual space. And so having the ability to shift your energy from, we're enjoying each other's company, we could easily sit down on the couch and just watch a movie together and then go to bed, and that would be fine. Moving your energy from that to, okay, I'm going to bring turn on in. I'm going to start getting myself to feel a little bit more alive and turned on, and I'm going to bring that to my partner as an invitation to have sex. Or just be sexual, not necessarily have sex. That is an energetic shift. You're playing with sexual nuance just by shifting your energy in that way. Rather than being purely a companion, somebody that you love and want to be around, but it feels like friendship and roommates, I'm going to turn on the heat inside of me and bring it to you. Other ways you might play with this kind of sexual energy would be seduction. And I know so many people, often women I would say, but people really, who feel so uncomfortable about being seductive. And they even think about it and they start getting giggly and like, oh God, I could never do that. When in fact, it's really just shifting your energy to, I am alluring, I want to bring you in some way. You don't have to move in, that would be fine. I will be perfectly fine and I will not feel any sort of rejection if you don't, but I'm going to be a little bit more seductive. Tonight, whenever we're out to dinner, I might touch myself more and make more eye contact, and even just imagine letting sexual vibes come off my body and move towards your body, just all to kind of prime parts of us that prepare to have a sexual encounter. And I have to do that inside myself before I ever bring it to the other person, because how would they know if I'm not putting some intention into it? They can't guess, they can't read my mind. And that's not to say this always works. No, definitely not. We don't always have sex the moment we want to have sex, and that's okay. But if you can begin to build this kind of ability to shift energy, and also notice what works for your partner energetically in sexual interactions, that will help you to have a more pleasure-filled life, really. This energetic thing is also so important if you have a partner. So I'll give you an example from my life. Sometimes I like to have a more naive, kind of playful, oh, I didn't know this would turn you on kind of feeling when I attempt to seduce a partner. That doesn't sound quite right. When I'm being seductive. And it's more for me than them, but it's an invitation for them to join me in the sensuality of it. So there's times whenever I like to be a little bit naive and almost like ditzy. But if I move into that energy, my partner does not find that appealing. It's just not into it. That's not what my partner finds attractive and seductive. And so, knowing that, I'm probably never going to use that energy with my partner as an attempt to have a sexual encounter, because I know it's not going to work. It does not work for them. That's okay. It's a little bit of a grief moment because I enjoy it, but we don't get every single thing we want in a relationship. And that's okay. That really is all right. So long as you're getting enough, which in my case, my partner is turned on by many other things that I could potentially do, which would be very fun. And so this one loss is worth all the gain, all the potential good, all the positives that are there in the relationship. Okay. I hope that you found this helpful. Please ask questions, leave comments, like this video, and if you enjoyed it, share it with anyone who you believe may benefit. And remember to subscribe to my channel. I share weekly videos about relationships, love, and sexuality. I'll see you in the next one.